Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the newest installment of Filthy Sports. I'm your host, John Campia. In the room with me, I got Jonathan Voico.
Hey, everybody.
Ryan Myers is here.
What's up, sports fans?
And, of course, you guys are here. Thanks for being here. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about here today. We're going to start off everything with this. How about them Cowboys? Woo! Oh, it's always a good day when the sun is shining. You got someone to wake up to. And the Dallas Cowboys get their asses whooped. Not beat, whooped. As last night, the Dallas Cowboys gave up about 500 yards of offense to the Detroit Lions. Dak Prescott throwing picks in the end zone, throwing for a little over 50%, and basically losing almost every single battle on the line of scrimmage as they get absolutely annihilated. 47-9. Now, let me give this up first. They are playing, and they played a very good Detroit Lion team. Like a Detroit Lion team that some people are picking to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Notwithstanding
their very best defensive player, maybe the best defensive player in the league right now, having his leg snapped like a twig last night. That was horrific.
Brutal.
I was so bad. Here's hoping he can make like an Alex Smith kind of recovery and,
for sure,
and come back from that. But even after the injury, I mean, they just got absolutely dominated. Now, the Cowboys right now are 3-3.
It feels worse than that, though.
Well, and here's why it feels worse than that. Who have they beaten? They've beaten the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I still maintain are a mirage. I do not believe the Steelers are as good as their record says they are. I think Justin Fields is playing pretty good, but I think that's a little bit of a smoke and mirror show. I don't think they're bad, just a little bit of smoke and mirror show. Who else did they beat? They beat the New York Giants, and they beat the Cleveland Browns. That's who they've beat. They lost. No, let me rephrase. They got their asses beat by a New Orleans Saints team that has now lost 4 in a row, and we now realize aren't even that good of a team. They got beat by the Ravens. No shame there.
Yeah.
No shame to losing to the Ravens. And then they lost to Detroit. Yeah. Again, no shame in losing to Detroit if you go out there and you acquit yourself well. But I'll give you an example. Washington Commanders lost this weekend to the Baltimore Ravens. But you know what? They came out looking good.
Mm-hmm.
They lost that game, and they came out looking good because there's a lot of people right now who believe the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in football, despite having 2 losses on their record. And I picked Baltimore to win the game, but I thought Baltimore was going to beat up Washington. That didn't happen. We're talking about a Dallas Cowboy team that against a bad New Orleans Saints team got it handed to them and then just got blown out of the building last night against the Detroit Lions. Dak Prescott continues to prove that, in my estimation, he is a good quarterback. Not a average, not a bad, a good quarterback, just not an elite quarterback that can literally throw a team on his back like a Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson or a guys of those ilk and carry his team to unlikely victories. He's certainly not worth being the highest paid quarterback in the business, which starts with our big list of problems. Are the Dallas Cowboys really as bad as they looked last night? I will say this. They're not as bad as they looked last night, because frankly, they look like one of the worst teams in the league. But they are, I think, worse than you think. The numbers don't lie. The only time Dak is able to put up like some impressive numbers is when he's thrown for like 50 times a game. And you can get away with that here and there, but it's not a recipe for long-term success. Now, granted, they had some injury problems, especially on the defensive side of the ball, right? Micah Parsons was out. Eric Kendricks was out. Carson was out. Definitely, yes. But would that have changed 47 points to 27 points? No, because here's why. Dak Prescott's one of the problems. Not because he's not an elite level quarterback, but because they have so much of the franchise's money tied up in the richest contract in NFL history that they're left wanting in a lot of other areas. One of those areas, the front on both sides of the ball. Last night against Detroit, I often say this, The thing that will win you the football game is not your quarterback, not your wide receivers, not your running backs, or your linebackers, your edge rush. It's the line. 7 times out of 10, the team that wins the line will win the game. And on both sides of the ball, Detroit's offensive line had their way with Dallas's defensive line. Detroit's defensive line had their way with Dallas's offensive line. It got so bad that I remember I was watching one of the shows on ESPN, and Damian Woody, he said, Dallas Cowboys are soft. They're soft. And look, you don't like to throw that line out at a team, but when you look at what happened on that line, both sides, that's where the grit, the toughness, the pride, that's where all that comes in. And they just got beaten almost every single play. They just got beaten. And again, defense is massively wanting. Offensive is massively wanting. You know, Dak Prescott's got a little bit of Brett Favre in him. He likes to be the cowboy. He's a gunslinger. He'll shoot it around. Yeah. And a lot of times when you shoot it around, it's going to get picked like in the end zone, stuff like that. This team is horrible. And then the problems consist all the way up to the top. You should not have your owner as your general manager. You can't have your owner as your general manager. I'm sorry. And yet, look, they're going to win some games. Okay. They are going to win some games, but listen to their upcoming schedule. Okay. Next up, they got the San Francisco 49ers, who look like they are turning it around. Then they've got a hot Kirk Cousins Atlanta Falcons. Then they're playing a winnable game, but can surprise you here and there, the Philadelphia Eagles. Then they're playing the Texans, and then they're playing the Washington Commanders. They could go 1-4 in this stretch.
Yeah, 2 of them are division rivals. So
yeah.
That's even worse if they lose those games.
They could go 1-4 in this next stretch, which would make them a 3-17 or 3-8. I mean, that's how it is. Now, then they got the New York Giants after that. The Bengals look like they could be. Remember last week, what did I say last week? Bengals are the best 1-4 team you've ever seen. I think they're starting to turn it around, but it's getting ugly, and that game was ugly, and I loved it. I was driving. Ann and I were driving to the LA Dodgers game last night. Ann was behind the wheel, and I'm sitting there watching the game on my tablet, laughing my ass off. When we got to the parking lot, Dodger Stadium, we just stayed in there as I just continued to laugh my ass off. Anyway, Ryan, you had a chance. You saw the game. Like, how bad are the Cowboys, or are they better than they're letting on right now?
I definitely think they're better than they're letting on. I think you hit it with the defense. Parsons is out, another pass rusher is out, starting linebacker, cornerback. They're ranked 30th in the league right now, their defense. So definitely they can't stop anybody. Offensively, pass offense, they're not bad, but Dak's throwing a lot of picks. So 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Like you say, if they threw him in the end zone, like he's at the worst possible time they're getting these turnovers.
Yeah, I think he's at 6 interceptions.
So, okay, 6. It feels like 7. Anyway.
Feels like 10.
Yeah. But I think one of the biggest issues is their running game. They have none.
It doesn't exist.
They're ranked 31st. So if the defense knows they're not going to run it, then they can tag in on him and pass rush like the Lions did yesterday. So I don't think they're as bad as we think they are, but that was the worst home loss they've ever had since 1988. And I think with Jerry Jones, like you're saying, he can't run the team. He's 80-something years old.
He's 82 now.
They haven't been good since Aikman, really. So like they're that long now without any consistency in the playoffs. Probably need to change there, but he's the owner, so he's not going to kick himself out. So, but I don't think they're as bad as they are. I do think they have a bye week this week coming at the right time, so they can try to get healthy, game plan for the next games. But like you said, Niners, Falcons, Eagles, if they don't win all 3 of those, I don't see them making the playoffs probably.
Yeah, you know what? Listen, when you say they haven't been good in a long time, I can already hear somebody yelling, they've won 12 games 3 years in a row.
That's
Fair
great,
enough.
but that's not what you
But
try to
never
do.
when it counts.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? Like, I would suggest to you that those 12-win seasons have been a little bit of a mirage. Like, I've heard a number of people talking about this week. It's like, look at the last couple of years. You had a Green Bay, in the NFC, you had a Green Bay Packers team that was no longer at the height of their power. You've had, I mean, like literally just a number that Detroit is becoming what they are, but a couple of those years, they still weren't great. Like you had a Dallas Cowboy team winning the games they should win and then choking when it counts. And so, yeah, they've had, you know what? They've had some 12-win seasons. Ask the Carolina Panthers if they would like a couple of 12-win seasons. Sure, they would. But, I mean, this is not a team that's built to have decent regular seasons with no postseason success.
No, it reminds me, honestly, of like the Colts in the early 2000s. Win 12, 13, 14 games, get to the playoffs, lose the first game. And then, like, they're great in the regular season, but they're not winning when it counts. So, yeah, Dak puts up good numbers, but in the playoffs, they've won, what, one playoff game? To one or two total since he's been the quarterback.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no continued success going further. So I don't root for them. I'm not like John. I don't laugh at their downfall, but I just know I haven't seen anything from them to show any change. Like, they have good players. You're right. CeeDee Lamb is good. Dak's good. I really think they should have got Derrick Henry over the offseason instead of signing Ezekiel Elliott, but that kind of comes back to the money issue. You're saying, like, so much money's taken up with these other players. So yeah, we'll see. Next couple of games are going to be make or break for them, I think.
Yeah. And I just I cannot see them winning 2 of the next 5. I just don't see them winning 2 of the next 5. I mean, again, maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe they'll shock us, all that kind of stuff. I see somebody in the live chat saying, well, you know, when's the last time the Niners have a Super Bowl? Okay, yeah, it's been a while since the Niners won a Super Bowl.
But they made it.
But they go deep.
Yeah.
They are legitimate contenders each year, and they go deep. They give their fans a reason to be proud. The Dallas Cowboys give their fans a reason to wear paper bags over their heads and just embarrass themselves week after week. So don't go trying to compare the Cowboys right now to the San Francisco 49ers, because that is not a good look. That's not a good comparison if you're a Cowboy fan. Anyway, with that down, guys, what do you think? I mean, you know, maybe the ass kicking to a bad New Orleans Saints team was a mirage. Maybe that 47, point ass kicking to whatever is a kind of a mirage. Maybe they're better than we think. Maybe they just got to turn it around. I don't know. I think they're as bad as they look. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's talk about this. This is a story I do not hear a lot of outlets talking about, and I am absolutely fascinated by it. John Gruden just scored a major legal victory that is going to keep Roger Goodell and other NFL team owners lying awake in their beds, soaked in cold sweat. Now, for those of you who have not followed this, here's a little, just a refresher, just the basics of it. A couple of years ago, there was a full exhaustive investigation of Daniel Snyder and the Washington Redskins and their football organization. In that investigation, over 650,000 pieces of information, email, correspondence, letters, all that kind of stuff, was pulled together as a part of the investigation. Now, it was all sealed and private. Well, months later, after the NFL season starts, somebody in the NFL decides to leak a couple of those 650,000 pieces of information to, I believe, the Wall Street Journal. Mm-hmm. And was an email from John Gruden, who at the time was the coach of the Raiders. They were a couple of games into the season, which, hey, listen, painted John Gruden in a pretty bad light. Let's just call it what it is. Nothing happened. So whoever this was in the NFL decided to leak a couple of more 10-year-old emails. And the emails were about 10 years old at the time, I think. This time, I think, to the New York Post. Again, stuff from John Gruden to the, at that time, owner of the general manager, I think, of Washington.
Yeah, his name was Bruce Allen.
That's it. Again, not a good look for John Gruden. John Gruden eventually gets strong-armed and gets pushed out of the team. Now, John Gruden a couple of years ago then brought a lawsuit against the NFL and Roger Goodell saying, isn't it funny that out of the 650,000 pieces of email and correspondence between all the NFL owners and all the inside dirt, only a couple of very specific hand-selected pieces about me got leaked to the media. And so John Gruden is going to take the NFL and Roger Goodell to court. Here was the catch. There is an agreement in the contracts of NFL coaches and whatnot that says if there is a legal dispute, it's got to go to arbitration instead of court. Can't go to court, it's got to go to arbitration. And here's the kicker. Roger Goodell himself gets to be the arbitrator.
Pretty convenient.
Roger Goodell himself gets to be the arbitrator. So John Gruden's in a situation where I'm trying to sue Roger Goodell and the NFL, but Roger Goodell gets to be the de facto judge. How is that fair? So Roger Goodell took it to court. The court said, you're right. That's ridiculous. You get to take this to trial. The NFL and Roger Goodell appealed it to the Nevada State Supreme Court. In a ruling of 2-1, the judges voted, again, 2-1, in favor of the NFL, saying, nope, this doesn't get to go to court. This has to stay in arbitration. Now, the dissenting justice on the Nevada State Supreme Court said, this is ridiculous. It is a fundamental miscarriage of justice that the subject of a lawsuit also gets to be its adjudicator. That's ridiculous. But that was it. It was done. But now the Nevada State Supreme Court is coming back and saying, we only had 3 of our judges on that panel. We're going to review it again, this time with all 7 justices of the Nevada State Supreme Court. And this has Roger Goodell and the NFL completely pissing themselves. Why? Why are they so scared? Here's why they're scared. When you take something to court, I'm going to super oversimplify this, but there's a process called discovery. And in discovery, you get to go through all the underwear drawers of the other party. Roger Goodell is now facing a reality where if the Nevada State Supreme Court comes back and rules in John Gruden's favor, then what that means is Gruden and his lawyers get access to all 650,000 pieces of information that were a part of that Washington Redskin investigation. And the reason that is going to cause Roger Goodell and all the NFL owners to sweat in their beds is because, hey, they just picked out a couple of nasty sounding emails from John Gruden. What other good old boy language and things have been said between different NFL owners? Tell you what, we don't want to pay our quarterback that much. You agree not to make him an offer, I'll make sure I sweeten the deal. How many laws and rules and has been broken? How many different ways left of right? How are we going to find ways that NFL owners and Roger Goodell himself have completely humiliated themselves? And there is nothing that the NFL fears more right now than the contents of that 650,000 pieces of correspondence between coaches and owners and the league. They do not want this to see the light of day, and they will do anything they can to try to prevent it. And that is why I'm kind of shocked that we're not hearing more sports outlets talking about this. Mm-hmm. Because, and here, I guarantee you this, this will never go to trial. I guarantee you. And here's why I guarantee it'll never go to trial. Because if John Gruden wins this hearing in front of the Nevada State Supreme Court, and I think he will win. Again, it's a fundamental basis of common sense. You cannot have the person being sued as the judge in the matter of the lawsuit. You can't have that. That is a fundamental miscarriage of justice. So I believe that the Nevada, I don't know this for sure, but I believe the Nevada State Supreme Court will come back in John Gruden's favor. And if they do, and tells him you can take this to court now and you can go through discovery, I believe, can you hear this? Can you hear this? You hear the knocking on the door. John Gruden answers the door, and there's 5 guys in suits with 17 dump trucks filled with Spanish gold. Saying, you make this little lawsuit go away, we will pay you $1 million. Oh, wait, now it's $1 billion. We will pay you $1 billion. They will offer John Gruden and give John Gruden, listen to me, I'm not exaggerating here, They will give John Gruden whatever he wants because under no circumstances, life or death, does the NFL want those emails getting out. They do not want those getting out. Now, John Gruden said a couple of years ago when this whole legal proceeding started, he said, I don't want money. I want to destroy the NFL. That's fine to say until somebody brings you a check with 9 zeros on it.
Well, different decision at that point.
That might change it around. But listen, this could fundamentally change everything. Anyway, Ryan, you heard about this. You looked into this. What's standing out to you about this whole situation?
I mean, I'm kind of in agreement with you. Like, the NFL doesn't want people to see all the rest of these emails or hear about them. I mean, who knows what's in there?
Roger Kraft giving his best massage parlor recommendations to all the other owners.
We could look at a few things, right? Concussions, stuff with concussions.
Yep.
Kaepernick.
Bury those
Kaepernick
things.
stuff.
Yep. Let's all agree not to hire Kaepernick.
And like you said, other owners saying things that they don't want to get out, inappropriate misogyny, racial, homophobic, because that's basically what Gruden stuff was. Horrible stuff. Not trying to say his stuff was.
Yeah. And by the way, we're not sitting
yeah.
here saying that we feel sorry for John Gruden.
No.
Right? I'm not saying that at all. But there is a fundamental issue of fairness that if in this investigation, the 650,000 pieces, it was all supposed to be under lock and key and seal, why was only his stuff leaked? And more importantly, why was only his stuff leaked after the NFL season had started? And that's hey, think whatever you want about John Gruden. I'm not going to argue with you at all. But there is a fundamental basis of fairness here about he was clearly specifically targeted. He was specifically the in the crosshairs of either the league or somebody in particular. Yeah. And the fundamental idea that if he has a legal grievance to bring, the adjudicator of that grievance should not be the person who has aggrieved you. I don't know. So I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Continue.
And another note was the Raiders owner, when those emails came out, he went around to the team players and asked what they thought if they should get a new coach or what they thought of all of it. And apparently Goodell called him and said he has to get rid of him. So
yeah,
that's overriding pretty much everything. So yeah, it'll be very interesting. I would assume it's going to settle. There's no way they're going to go to court for this.
No chance.
And I mean, like Gruden was a young coach and he can't coach anymore. He was on Monday Night Football. He's not in there anymore. So he really basically now he does YouTube videos and TikTok stuff, analyzing games.
Yep.
So like he pretty much lost his way of making money with football, professionally at least, because of this. So he's trying to probably make up for it and get back at them for basically giving, letting all that stuff out to the public.
Well, listen, if this does clear the Nevada State Supreme Court, he will make more money than he ever would have in the rest of his career coaching football.
Yep.
Yeah, he's going to be just fine. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this whole situation? Listen, I've been saying this for years about this Gruden situation. It stinks. This is a smelly situation, and it looks like there's some new movement on. And whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's go on and talk about this, shall we? The Chicago Bears are an interesting team. A lot of people did not give them any credit coming into this year. I mean, look, they got Caleb Williams, USC boy, coming out there. That was great. They mortgaged a lot. They moved Justin Fields, who was a different first-round quarterback pick. They moved him off to Pittsburgh, and they made room for Caleb Williams. Still, a lot of people said, Chicago's not going to do awful much. But they won this weekend. They won their game this weekend. And here's the surprising part. They won their game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, moving them to 4-2, which I don't think a lot of sports books in Vegas would have thought that the Chicago Bears with a brand new rookie quarterback would start the season 4-2. Now, who'd they beat? They beat the Tennessee Titans, not something to write home about. They beat the Carolina Panthers, not something to write home about. They beat a 3-3 Colts team that's actually Colts just won again this weekend. They're not looking terrible, but still that. And then they just beat the Jaguars who again, nothing to write home about. And they lost against the Houston Texans, which no shame in that.
Nope.
Almost everybody's going to lose to the Houston Texans this year. And so you're looking at a 4-2 team, but here's what's key is Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, first of all, this weekend threw for well over 200 something yards, 4 touchdowns. He's getting better and better. Now, in the first 2 games of his very young NFL career, a lot of people looked and said, oh, this is the next NFL bust. I mean, it's the first 2 games of an NFL quarterback. I want you to look at this number, though. Now, if this looks like a weird thing, I literally took out my camera and took a picture of my television screen because Cowherd was actually talking about this. And I thought that graphic is so telling, and I just took out my camera and took a picture of it. So all credit to Colin Cowherd. But I want you to look at this. From week 1 to week 6, what do you want in your rookie quarterbacks? Show growth, show development. We're not expecting you to shake the world right now. Show growth, show development. In week 1, completion percentage 48.3. It goes up in week 2, goes up again in week 3, goes up again in week 4, stays around the same in week 5, and then goes up again in week 6. Week 1, 48.3 percentage completion. This past week, 79.3% completion rating. Look at his passer rating. Week 1, 55.7, week 2, 51. And from there, it just starts going up. It goes up in week 3 to 80 passer rating, in week 4 to 106, in week 5 to 126.2, and in week 6 it stays there at 124.4. And it's not just the numbers with Caleb Williams. You see it. And I've heard a couple of other guys making comments about this, but it's absolutely true. When Williams, when you're talking about a quarterback, this kind of prototypical college, 2024 college football quarterback, right? They all run. They all run, right? And when you watch Caleb Williams at USC, quite often what you saw was look for his first target, rarely cycled through and went to a second target, let alone his third option. And if the first target wasn't there, use his incredibly gifted legs, right? What you're starting to see in just 6 weeks with Caleb Williams, he went from, if his receiver isn't there, you now see, I watched this game. When he would drop into the pocket, it wasn't always there, but you can now see him. You watch week 1 to week 6. There's a difference. Week 6, look, nothing, try to make something happen. In week 6, boom, boom.
Progression.
Boom.
Yep.
Progression. Finding the second option. Sometimes finding the third. And when all else fails, use the legs and run. And that's why you see his completion percentage going way high, because he's not trying to force as many passes as he was in the first 2 to 3 weeks. You see his overall QBR getting higher because, again, he's taking a breath. He's taking his time. He's making better decisions, all that kind of stuff. Now, do I expect his QBR to be at 140 and a completion percentage rate of 95% by week 12? No. But I think what we are now seeing, especially in the last couple of weeks, is why this guy was the number 1 overall pick. We're starting to see that raw potential that came out of USC and in college, and we're starting to see what it can be on the NFL level. And I think this guy has far more upside than Justin Fields did. I think this guy is, look, I'm not saying he's going to be the next, Lamar. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Tom Brady, but I think this guy is going to be a top 5 quarterback in this league within the next 2 years. I mean, you just see him growing at a gremlin-like pace after eating something after midnight and getting wet. It's fast. Anyway, you had a chance to check it out. What do you think about where the Bears are and Caleb Williams' development right now?
Yeah, I think one of the main things, like you said, is basically he's learning on the job. Basically, he's going through his progressions. He's cutting back on his turnovers. He's only had 1 interception in the last 3 games, so he's not throwing it away. I was interested to see he hasn't run for a touchdown yet. So
he's not making it his priority.
Yeah. So basically, it's like you're saying, he's going through his reads, and then he's running for first downs. I think he's averaging 6 yards a run, but he doesn't run that much, but he does when he needs to. But I think he's playing good. Playing the bad teams helps their record, I think. Like you said, a lot of those are 1-win teams. But, I mean, they're still beating them. You're supposed to beat bad teams. If you lose to the bad teams, you're the bad team.
Yeah,
so
beat the teams. If you just take care of business and beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and then squeak in 1 or 2 of the ones that maybe you shouldn't, as long as you're improving, look, they're 4-2 right now.
Yep.
Last place in the NFC North, which is
best division.
best division in football right now.
Yeah.
Are they going to finish like with 11 wins? No, I don't think they are. They're going to finish with a losing record, I think. But regardless, they're already a better team than I thought they would be coming in. And because of that, I think the next 2 to 3 years for these guys looks pretty promising. Yeah. And, you know, you get one or two, a little bit more help on the offensive line just to protect them a little bit better. You get them a little bit more help in the backfield. Mm-hmm. Listen, the ceiling on this kid is high, very, very high. And it's going to be exciting to watch how they develop. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The Chicago Bears are 4-2, which, let me check, yes, puts them ahead of the Dallas Cowboys. Who saw that after 6 weeks in the NFL season coming in? And Caleb is looking like the superstar. He's becoming the superstar like a lot of people thought he might. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on from a really cool, inspiring looking story to one that's just straight up depressing. The Philadelphia Eagles. Now look, the Philadelphia Eagles just had one of the most bizarre situations I've seen in football in the last little while, where head coach Nick Sirianni got into a yelling match with Philadelphia's own fans, which you know is going to go over great with Philadelphia fans. Now, look, for a bit of context here, ever since the Eagles started out red hot last season and their year just completely fell apart. They got into the playoffs, you know, all that kind of stuff, which a lot of teams would have loved to have done, and they didn't get the mission done. Whatever. Overall, they had a solid season. Came into this season with a lot of hope, missing Jason Kelce. I'm going to talk about that in a second here. But it has not exactly gone to plan, and they haven't exactly looked great. They went into this weekend 2-2. And they were going in to face possibly the league's worst team. You know, it's a toss-up between the New England Patriots, the Cleveland Browns, Jacksonville, and Carolina.
Yeah.
But up there in the discussion for the worst team in the NFL. And I said last week on this show, if Philadelphia loses this game, they're going to be getting another coach. Nick Sirianni's going to be gone. Some people thought I might have been overreacting. I was not overreacting. I honestly think if they had lost that game to arguably the worst team in the league, when they have not looked convincing, they have not looked good. Jalen Hurts still looks pretty good, but he's digressing.
Yeah.
I thought he would be gone. Well, what happened? They won by the skin of their teeth. They only managed to put up 20 points against the hapless Cleveland Browns. And won by 4 points. In my best Christian Bale, good for you. Okay, that's fine. Now, Philadelphia fans, I don't know if you've heard, are not shy about sharing their opinions and their thoughts on things.
That booed Santa Claus.
It's literally the fan base that booed Santa Claus.
Yep.
All right? You're taking a coaching job in Philadelphia, you got to know what you're getting in for. And there's been a lot of booing lately from the Philadelphia fans who have not been satisfied with the product on the field this year. And a lot of the chants, are they saying Saint Nick? Oh no, they're saying fire Nick, fire Nick. Now this all culminated in Sirianni starting to jaw with a bunch of the fans. And this made national news. This went everywhere. He started mouthing back to the fans. And then he doubled down on it in the post-game press. There he is, like yelling at the fans and gave him a little bit of the Hulk Hogan sort of ear thing. And then afterwards, he kind of doubled down on it in the after-game press conference saying, you know, hey, you know, when our fans cheer for us, it's the best. He goes, I don't know how productive it is to boo us, whatever. So he's kind of chastising the Philadelphia fans.
He's making it worse is what he's doing.
He's making it 10 times worse. To which I heard, you know, one of the commentators this morning on Fox Sports 1 saying, and exactly how productive is it to get into arguments with the fans? How productive is that? How constructive is that? How's that going to make anything? To a fan base that already wants you gone, then to chastise them for booing, which, listen, when you're a paying fan, you want to come, you want to cheer, you cheer, you want to boo, you boo. And if you're a man, you go, hey, we had that coming. We have not been playing up to our potential. I'm not bringing in the right, as a coach, I'm not bringing in the right game plan. As players, we're not really executing right. You go, hey, fans, you're right. You're booing and we hear you. Instead, you mouth off to the fans. And I'm going to say this, while it is not the normal course of business for NFL teams to fire coaches mid-season, it happens. It happens.
It just happened last week.
It just happened
Yeah.
with the Jets. It's not the normal thing.
Yeah.
Normally what happens is teams get to the end of the year. I don't know that Nick Sirianni is going to be the head football coach of the Philadelphia Eagles by the time we get to the final game of the season. I really don't, because if it wasn't for already the performance of the team, which has been lacking, and listen, hey, they can turn it around. They've got 4 winnable games coming out. I'm not saying they're going to go 4-0, but they got 4 winnable games coming out. They got the New York Giants. That's winnable. They could lose it, but it's winnable. They got the Bengals, who are 2-4, but they could lose to the Bengals. The Bengals look good, but it's winnable. They got Jacksonville after that. That's winnable. They got the Cowboys after that. They don't really got a concrete wall they're running into until they play Washington after the Dallas Cowboys. They have 4 winnable games in a row. We're going 3-1 in those games is not out of the question, okay? And winning cures everything. But right now, this doesn't look good. It's a bad look on them, the team. And I'm going to say this. I think everybody has underestimated the negative impact losing Jason Kelce from this team was going to have on this team. We see it on the field. That offensive line, no longer the dominant force that they used to be. I forget the kids, the Jason Kelce's protege, who's now playing center. I forget his name. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. But you can just see it. The offensive line is not the dominant force that it was. But more importantly than that, Jason Kelce was Philadelphia. The fans loved him. His team respected him. Now, I can't prove this beyond a shadow of a doubt, but if Jason Kelce had been on that sideline and saw his coach going over to start jawing at the crowd, I guarantee you he very subtly would have wrapped his arm around one of Sirianni's arms and just reeled him in. I guarantee you, had he been within 10 feet of that, Jason coach is the boss, but he would have had the boss's back by pulling him back, saying, hey, dude, calm down. You just see a Philadelphia Eagle team that is lacking now that veteran, commanding, mature presence. Mature. John, isn't this the guy at the Super Bowl was dancing in the audience shirtless? Yeah, whatever. But I mean, you can really tell the absence because it feels like the grown-up is out of the room now. Mm-hmm. And it feels like Jason Kelce was the grown-up. But anyway, you saw this situation. Yeah. How bad is this? How maybe I'm overemphasizing how bad it is. How do you see it?
I mean, I don't, has Andy Reid or Bill Belichick or any other coach gone into the crowd and yelled at fans?
Has Bill Belichick ever spoke?
Talking to fans?
Has he ever even talked?
I don't think it's good. I know Sirianni has like a fiery personality. I know in the locker room, the players like him amping them up and stuff. But I do think there's a time and place for it, and doing it to the fans is definitely not the place for it.
And is there a worse city to do that than Philadelphia?
I mean, like I said, the Boo Santa Claus, all that stuff. Like the Philly fan base is brutal. I mean, most fan bases are brutal, but Philly, especially New York, part of the problem, their offense is only averaging basically 18 points a game. They had 34 against the Packers, but they haven't really done much after that. I think a lot of that is what you're saying with Kelce. Their receiver AJ Brown was out too. He came back this week finally. I just think there's high expectations and they're not meeting them. They went, to a Super Bowl. They had a good start last year and then the kind of wheels fell off. Same thing this year. We'll see. They're luckily the NFC East is not great, so they can still hang around with these other teams.
I mean, the this is ridiculous. They could win the division, right?
Yeah, they could still come back.
I mean, they're not getting. Well, no, Washington's going to win the division, but
like you're saying, that tush push is a big deal. They never missed that when Kelsey was there.
No, it was
Now-
so
yeah.
much automatic. The league thought about making a rule
Yeah.
against it.
Now they're not getting it as much. So some of these things where they're going for it on fourth or red zone or whatever, they got to change the play. They're not getting those points. So I think it is a big deal. I know he's definitely on the hot seat. They need to keep winning, but this doesn't help him get over with the fans at all. They're going to boo him worse probably the next game.
Oh, they're going to be merciless
Fire Nick's
against
going to be
him.
louder, so he's not going to take that well, I'm sure. So
Well, here's
winning cures
the
all,
good news
but-
for them. They don't play at home again until November 10th. So their next game is on the road against the Giants, and their next game after that is on the road against Cincinnati. Now, let's say, although I think that Bengals game is going to be a tough game for them to win, but let's say the Eagles win those next two games and then come home likened unto a legionnaire general of Rome coming back after hailing victories. You know, winning in the NFL cures everything. It does. And maybe that'll soften the reception he gets. But I'll tell you what, they lose even one of those games. Let's say, heavens forbid, they lose against the Giants and the Bengals, which again, I think they may lose that game against the Bengals. And they come home after a couple of weeks away, after yelling at the crowd. I think that stadium is going to be merciless. Like absolutely merciless. And now, fortunately for them, that home game is against the Jags. So that's just what the
helps.
doctor
Yeah,
ordered,
that helps.
right? That's
Yeah.
just what the doctor ordered, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this situation in Philadelphia where now the coach is mouthing off to the fans? In a lot of other cities, I think there's some cities where maybe that's not a big story, but in Philadelphia, that is like an unpardonable sin. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to some baseball here for a second. Last night, the the NLCS began with the LA Dodgers taking on the New York Mets. Jonathan Voico and I and our
We were
wives,
there.
we went down last night. We went to Dodger Stadium to take in game one.
That was the game to be at.
And that was the game to be at as everybody went off. And the Dodgers won that game 9-0, third straight shutout, going 33 innings in a row without giving up a run, tying a major league record.
1966 World Series.
Yeah.
Was that it? All
Yeah,
the way back to
Baltimore
1966?
Orioles,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, for a team, the one knock on the Dodgers this season has been their pitching. And so to go 33 scoreless innings, that's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
Shohei went off. I mean, they were hitting. Round the block, they were just hitting. 33 scoreless innings. Well, that didn't last long.
No.
Because then they went into today's game, game two, and right in the first inning, the Mets ended that, got one, and then followed that up in the next inning with a grand slam home run. Plus, Ann and I were out running some errands in between shows.
Yeah.
Got home, turned on the TV quick, like maybe the game started, and it was 6-0.
Yeah.
Now the Mets have gone on to win that game 7-3. After, it looked like the Dodgers might be mounting a bit of a comeback.
There was a couple times there. They had bases loaded. That's when
They had bases loaded with nobody out.
That's when they got the runs. Followed it up with bases loaded again, but left them stranded. Then they had 3 on later on, like in the 7th or 8th inning, stranded them. So, yeah, man, it's like they had the chances to come back, honestly, but they
Now-
gave it a fight. The fact that they were getting on, but just left them stranded.
Now, in last night's game, the Dodgers were scoring almost at will every inning. Like it felt they didn't score every single inning, but it kind of felt like they were putting up numbers almost every inning. After that 5-run second inning, the Mets only managed to put up one more run. So let me ask you, Jonathan, you're the bigger baseball fan here by far. Like, Dodgers dropped this one. The series is now 1-all. I'm thinking, though, that, again, aside from that one inning where they put up 5.
That was it. They held them off.
They put them up. They won the rest of the game on. How are you feeling if you're the Dodgers going into game 3? Are you feeling like, damn it, we had an opportunity to be up 2-0? Or are you feeling like, okay, we're 1-1, but we feel we are dominating this team? Like, how do you think they're looking at it?
We're going to give Landon Knack a little bit of a break, number one. Number two, no, I think these guys have it in 6 games. Okay, look, while I was watching, the Dodgers started to make a little bit of a rally, and the Mets were looking nervous. They were dropping the ball. They weren't fielding correctly. You could see it in their faces. You could see the stress in their muscles in their faces. Just from a little bit of like, the Dodgers just woke up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas the Dodgers are like, we're just going to keep at this. And they didn't stop getting hits. I mean, look, the Dodgers had 5 hits and 3 runs. So Manaea was probably their best bet, honestly. And they worked that. So the fact that, like you said, the fact that they held off after kind of the Knack disaster, and look, he pitches fine, but he had a bad day, and they got 5 runs. They got an RBI and then a grand slam in the second inning. They were solid. So no, I think this Dodgers team, they know they can go the distance.
Yeah.
I remember they were just down 2-1
Yeah.
in the series against the Padres, faced 2 elimination games and end up winning the series.
Well, and the thing is that, yes, it's high risk, high reward. So the first time they went with the bullpen against the Padres, you got the high reward. Honestly, other than the second inning, it would have been a high reward, but one guy in your lineup can screw it up.
Yeah.
Now we've got Buehler going into Wednesday's game, followed by Yamamoto, who redeemed himself like beautifully. I think they could pick up 1 or 2 in New York. If they pick up 2 in New York, well, then they're 3-1.
Yeah.
Coming back home.
Let me ask you this. All right. So I think maybe even as we speak, the ALCS is kicking off.
Just
here.
started. Guardians and Yankees are in top of the first inning.
Who do you have winning that series? I've got Cleveland winning that series. Who do you have winning that series?
Cleveland just looks hungry. They look like they want it. When they at first it looked like they were stumbling against Detroit, but in that final game,
Detroit came into the playoffs on fire.
and the underdog.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I rooted for them because of that. But Cleveland let Detroit know what was up, and they had a fire in their eyes. They had persistence, and I honestly think it's going to be Cleveland in an upset over the Yankees.
And I don't even understand why it would be considered an upset, to be honest with you. I honestly don't think...
Honestly,
look,
it's
the Yankees
nothing
are
more
good,
than the... No, I know.
It's a name brand,
I shouldn't
right?
even said upset because it's a name brand.
I mean, I've looked at them this year. They have not looked that dumb. Look, there's a couple of very interesting outcomes of these championship series, right? One that I know Major League Baseball and television networks are all rooting for.
They want
New York
yes.
Yankees against the LA Dodgers.
Yes, of course.
Now, there's another fascinating one.
2 biggest markets in the thing.
New York Mets against the New York Yankees, a Subway Series World Series.
Yeah,
right?
there could be a lot of angry New Yorkers.
Yeah. I don't know that there's a lot of network executives wanting to see New York Mets versus Cleveland World Series, but again, a couple of really interesting ones: LA versus New York, or New York versus New York. That could be interesting either way. Guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this situation? The NLCS is now all tied up at 1, but I got to say, other than 1 inning, I think the Dodgers have looked pretty dominant, and I'm picking Cleveland to beat the Yankees, but I mean, who knows which way that's going to go. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. I just got to type thanks, Nick, in the live chat. There we go. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this final topic here today, shall we? Tua Tagovailoa has suffered 74 concussions. At least that's what it feels like. This poor kid, and you know what? He's not soft. No. Every one of his concussions, you look at, it's not like, oh, he got a bump and, oh, he's concussed. Every one of his concussions has been like, that would have concussed anybody. Like, he's just taken some brutally hard shots. And a few weeks ago, he took another one that looked, frankly, pretty scary, right? When he was first trying to get up and all that kind of stuff. And the question started to surround, does he play again? And even when they talked to the Dolphins coach, Mike McDaniel, afterwards, he was like, look, he actually said something very wise. He said, look, it just happened. I'm not going to say whether I think he will or won't come back, whether he should or shouldn't come back. You need time to separate yourself from it, take a breath, evaluate. He goes, I'm not even going to say anything. I thought, honestly, some people were calling him for saying he was copping out. Like, no way. That was the grown-up in the room thing to say. That was the perfect answer he gave. Still, it started a lot of debate about whether he will come back, whether he should come back. Well, Mike McDaniel has now come out and said that Tua is going to come back this year. This from ESPN. Mike McDaniel said, I do expect to see him playing football in 2024, McDaniel said Monday. But where that is exactly, we'll let the process continue since we still have time before he can even entertain anything. We'll make sure that he's diligent this week and assess after that. So, the coach of the Miami Dolphins is now saying Tua is coming back. And I got to tell you, under normal circumstances, my thought is, because some people will say the team shouldn't let him come back. It's not the team's choice. It's not the team's call. If the player says they're good to go, and if doctors say he's good to go, and you got a contract with that guy, you can't say you can't play football anymore. If you really want to bench him, go ahead and trade him, but you can't say you can't play anymore. And I don't think they should. But man, I tell you something, it feels a little different when you're talking about your brain. Like, your ribs are going to give, your knees are going to go, your back is getting sore. Like, okay, it's different when you're talking about your brain. And this guy has taken some heavy shots. He's got a lot of money because he just this offseason signed a big contract. And so he's got a lot of money, but I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised that the doctors are saying he can come back this year. Now look, at the same time, nobody in this room, and I'm going to guess very, very few of you watching at home, if any of you, are doctors, right? I'm not qualified to say that Tua should not come back, that it's not medically safe for him to come back. Listen, if a group of third-party doctors, not the Miami Dolphins doctors, but third-party medical examiners look at him and say, he's actually as good to go as anybody else in the league, then who are we to say that maybe he shouldn't? It just, when you're a young guy like that who has a family and who's got as much, he doesn't have Tom Brady money, but he's got generational wealth that you want to make sure you're there for your kids and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, man. We've taken as many licks to the head as he has already. If I was his friend, I would say, yo, Tua, listen, you won a national championship in college. You've lit it up in the NFL. You scored a huge contract. Maybe you call it a win and just walk away. But who can argue the competitive fire? Anyway, I'm surprised to hear that he's coming back. If the doctors say he can, I say you let him. I just don't know that I feel good about it. What do you think about this?
Yeah, it's definitely not. I don't feel good about it either. He's a young player. He's basically had 2 concussions in 2022. They sat him out the rest of that season. Last year he was good. No injuries, no problem. The Dolphins were really good last year. And then he got the concussion this year running into Hamlin head first, basically. He had a concussion in college too, so this wasn't just in the pros. And concussions get worse the more you get them. You get them easier. So I think, they have that thing now, the Guardian cap, the thing you put over your helmet.
Yeah,
it's supposed to help.
Which
some.
I think was wasn't it one of the Detroit Lion players just wearing one?
Yeah.
I don't know why every player isn't wearing one of those. I know they look stupid, but who cares?
This season was the first season they finally allowed it in a regular season game. The practice, they make them wear it and stuff. Those things supposedly stop 10% to 20% of the impact, depending on how fast.
And that could be all the difference in the world.
So if he does come back, he has to wear that. He has to wear that. There's no reason why he shouldn't. But I really think, like you said, he needs to get evaluated from multiple doctors and figure out.
And ones that aren't affiliated with the NFL.
Yeah, what's the best case here, and what happens if I get another one? Because he's early 20s, mid 20s. He has, like you said, family, 2 young kids. He got that big contract. Man, just don't risk everything for this. There is no fixing your brain. Once it's done, it's done. So I've seen too many, like pro wrestling, those guys get concussions.
Well,
they're gnarly.
And I know
Football
anybody
too.
who watches pro wrestling already knows we're thinking about the Chris Benoit situation. You look what happened there.
Or even CTE with Junior Seau, basically shot himself in the chest so they save his brain to study it. All that type of stuff. And he's so young. It's not worth jeopardizing. If maybe this is the last, I don't want to say chance, but get that evaluation, see what it is, and make that decision at this point. because he doesn't run all the time, but he does run, and he plays a quarterback. He takes blind hits.
Yeah.
So you're going to get hit. There's no avoiding it. He's not a kicker. So, I mean, he could try to change his play style to be more like old man Brady and Peyton Manning, where they go down real fast.
Yeah, you
they
can
don't
learn
slide.
to protect yourself.
Like, he's going to have
better.
to do that no
Yeah.
matter what. But is that going to affect his gameplay and what made him the quarterback that he is? So I think it's a huge decision. And like I said, I'm glad he got a big contract so he can have that money if he does retire. But for me, I would never jeopardize my health like that.
If I'm Mike McDaniels, and listen, think what you want about the geeky whiz kid, because that's what he just looks like, right? He just looks like a nerd.
He looks like an 80s Coke dealer.
Like
but
he learned the
Miami
game
Vice.
playing Madden. That's what.
yeah, for sure.
But think what you want about Mike. One of the things that has always struck me is this dude seems, and maybe it's an act, but I'm just saying, whenever I've seen him interviewed or talked to, whatever, he legitimately seems to really care about his players. If I'm Mike McDaniels, this is what I say. I say, okay, I'm sitting down with Tua and I'm saying, look, if all the doctors say you can come back and your contract says, okay, fine. But you and I are going to agree on two things. Number one, you're going to wear the goofy hat. What's it called again?
Guardian cap.
The Guardian cap, right?
Yeah.
That extra bubble on the, does it look ridiculous? 100% it looks ridiculous, but who cares if it's going to possibly save your life? So we're going to agree on two things. Number one, you're going to wear the ridiculous hat. Okay. And number two, you and I agree, if this happens one more time, you agree with me that you're done. You agree with me. You tell me right now that if this happens again, you're walking away. I mean, it's just such a dangerous situation when, again, look, and of course, every NFLer is facing that
Yes.
potential when they step out on the field. Yes. But this guy has had now several of these that have sidelined him for a while.
And there was the one where I think it was after the first one in 2022 where he got it and he got up and he was still playing when he shouldn't have been playing. Like part
Yeah.
of the NFL changing
Yeah.
their concussion reporting rules was because of this. So to put him out there again, and then if he got another one and something tragic happens, then that's NFL gets that forever, basically.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, look, is Tua Tagovailoa a gifted NFL quarterback? Absolutely, he's gifted. I love watching this dude play. And you guys have seen the difference in the Miami Dolphins between when he is playing quarterback
Oh yeah.
and when they're not, because they're a laughing stock when he's not playing. But is it worth it? I don't know. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, listen, we got just a couple of minutes here left. So if you guys are watching live, and only if you're watching live, here's your question. Go ahead and use the live chat to send in a question. Format it like the way I just put it in all capital letters, question, colon, then put in your question so we know you're asking us a question, not just commenting to the other commenters in the board. And we'll answer a couple of them here. So what do we got up here, Jonathan?
All right. Jose says, did you see Conor McGregor and Dan Hooler in
It's
Spain?
actually Hooker.
A hooker
Yeah.
in Spain, kind of announcing a potential fight for February 1st in Abu Dhabi. What do you feel about the potential matchup?
Yes, I don't think it's official. I don't think I could be wrong, but I don't think it's locked. But they're talking about Conor McGregor versus Dan Hooker. Okay, so we last week talked about some good potential matchups for Conor coming back. Obviously, Chandler, Diaz, Makachev, others like that. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't hate a Dan Hooker fight.
It's not bad.
Dan Hooker,
He'll stand there.
he will bang.
trade.
Listen, I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
he is a fun guy to watch fight, and
Yeah.
he's dangerous. Watching him fight, and honestly, all those other guys we mentioned, well, other than Nate Diaz, who's getting a little up
Old,
there
yeah.
now. But I mean, Chandler, Makachev, Justin Gaethje, all these guys, a third fight with Daniel Poirier,
Yeah.
Dustin Poirier,
Dustin
I mean,
Poirier.
all of those guys annihilate Conor McGregor, like destroy him. Hooker would be a good fight. And one, I'm not necessarily going to say that Conor McGregor would win, but could win. That's a fight he
Yeah.
could win. And Hooker will give you an entertaining, pull all the triggers kind of fight. I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad at that fight if
Yeah,
they made
and
it.
I could look up Hooker's ranking, but he's probably like mid in his division, probably. or maybe top 10, but definitely not like top 3. So it'd be a good fight, and it'd be an action fight. He's not a wrestler. He's going to stand there and trade with him. So I'd watch. That's definitely something I want to watch.
All right, what do we got up next?
We got Bryce, who says, who wins next week's Lions-Vikings game?
Ooh.
Where's it at?
That is where the rubber meets the road kind of game. I'll tell you what. If it wasn't for the injury that Detroit just suffered, again, their best defensive player, Hutchinson, who that is a fireball player, man.
It's in Minnesota.
If it was not for that injury, in Minnesota or not, coming off that ass whooping to the Cowboys, I think I would have picked the Lions. Without him, I think I'm going to go Vikings. So I'll pick the Vikings to win. What about you?
I'll probably go with the Lions.
You're just going to take the Lions even defense
I think so.
Because Minnesota's offense, man, they can light it up.
Yeah, I mean it's still Darnold. I got to. Okay.
All right,
we'll see.
All right, let's take 2 more. What's next?
All right, sure. We got all right. So Brody says, who do you think will win the NFL Rookie of the Year?
I don't think
offensive. Probably Jaden Daniels.
I mean, is there any question about that? Like,
unless Caleb completely flips the script.
Well, I mean, yeah, Caleb. The thing about Caleb is Caleb would have to do. I mean, the thing is, like Caleb, Daniels is improving week after week. I mean, I thought that they would get beat up badly this weekend, and they made a really good game out of it. And he continues to get week after week. Like right now, great, we're in week 6. We just finished week 6. It's way too early to call, but right now, I'd have to go with that.
Yeah.
All right, last question of the day. What's next?
All right. Kareem asks, what's your favorite sports for all of you?
Oh, it's hockey. Hockey's God's sport. That's. But I mean, listen, I'm obviously huge into football, both NFL and CFL. John, it's Canadian Thanksgiving. Why aren't you talking some CFL? Because the Hamilton Tiger Cats are dead last in the East, so there's no point in even talking about the CFL right now. God's sport, hockey, but I obviously love football, UFC, basketball. I mean, yeah, but what yours is basketball, isn't it?
Yeah, NBA. I watched since I was a little kid. I love football. Baseball into it, but not as much as Jonathan.
Well, mine's obviously baseball.
Jonathan's obviously baseball.
And pro wrestling, but it's not technically a real sport.
It's sports entertainment.
I love it. So, yeah.
All right, guys. With that down, that'll do it for today's installment of Filthy Sports. Hey, guys, listen, this was the first show of just our second week. Can you guys do us a favor and help out our channel? There's several ways you can do it. Tell other people about it, share the episode around. But some of the big things you do is just by leaving comment down below, because YouTube loves engagement. Click the thumbs up button, again, because YouTube loves engagement. Anything you can do to help the channel out, that'll be great if you enjoy what we do. And if you don't enjoy what we do, well, then you don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, help us out with that. Now, we will be back again tomorrow for the next installment of Filthy Sports. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. So, for Jonathan Boyko.
See you guys.
Ryan Myers.
Thanks, everybody.
My name's John Campia, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.